Hey guys, it's me Travis, the CEO and founder of PlayerProps.ai. This video, of course, is going to teach you how to use a tool on screen called the Predictor. This is one of our very first tools we created for PlayerProps.ai, and I'm going to do my best to cover every bit of nook and cranny that this tool offers. But if after you watch this video, if for whatever reason you still have questions, do not hesitate to ask me. You can simply DM me in the Discord or simply comment on this video as well, and I will answer you as quickly as I can. That being said, let's hop right to it. So the predictor, even though you see sites or sportsbooks in the source selection like DraftKings, FanDuel, and probably by the time you're watching this, there'll be many more in there, you can actually use this tool for any sportsbook or prop app that exists. So even though right now, as of the second, it shows FanDuel, you can still use, without even changing it to DraftKings, you can still use this for DraftKings. Even though it says FanDuel, you can still use this for Prize Picks, for Underdog, for any of those prop apps. You can use this tool for any of them. So it does not have to have the name of the tool. It's just a slight bonus if it does, because it shows you the exact lines being fed from that sportsbook at that given second you're looking at it. But just because it says FanDuel does not mean you can't use it for every sportsbook on planet Earth. And of course, the prop apps as well. So let's go through all this data and what it means. So the first thing you have here on the left, this is where you're choosing your league. If you are looking for MLB, WNBA, college football, NFL, NHL, college basketball, NBA, everything that we offer, it's going to be here. Now, if you're like, wait a second, why don't I see, WNBA or NBA? Make sure you're paying attention up here in the top right. This is a calendar. It will only show you the games available for that date. So if you're choosing, this is for Thursday Night Football by the time I'm recording this. So this is for a Thursday game in advance. We can choose that. So the only games that are scheduled right now that have projections created are for college football and NFL. So just make sure if you think something's missing, maybe it's Friday and you're looking for NFL plays. If this has a Friday date and it doesn't have Sunday, Monday, or Thursday, then you're not going to see NFL here. So make sure you are paying attention to the calendar. The next thing you select is your source. Again, as of recording this, we have FanDuel and DraftKings baked into the system, but in the very near future, we're going to have a lot more sportsbooks added to that as well. So what you're choosing here, the only thing that changes is the line of the prop. So for here, Rico has a 12.5 receiving yards prop on FanDuel, and then the odds on FanDuel is minus 114 if you go over. So these are the things that are associated to what you click up here. Everything else, it doesn't really matter. So you see here, Rico's odds are minus 115, but his line's still the same. So again, it'll show you the available lines and odds for that book, but the projections are RAI. That's never going to change for the player. The past data may change because, let's say, for example, Rico on FanDuel has a 12.5 receiving yards line. This means he's hit this line 80% of his last 5 games, 50% of his last 10 games, 67% of the course of the season. So if I were to change to DraftKings, and let's say, for example, he had a 10.5 line, well, maybe he'll hit this in 100% if the one game he missed for FanDuel, so he's at 12.5. So let's say he had one game in the last 5 where he got, let's just say, 12 yards exactly. So that's a miss for FanDuel, which is why he's at 80% and not 100%. But if he had 12 exactly in one of his last 5 games and his line on DraftKings is 10.5, then this will be 100%. So the past data is a hit rate based on the exact line being shown on the screen. So if the line changes depending on what sportsbook you choose, that will change the hit rate as well, because it all depends on what the yardage or what the stat they accumulated and what the line is. So just pay attention to that part. The implied here, this is a percentage for implied chance. I have videos already. I have tools in the free community Discord that kind of teach you how to use implied chance. So implied chance is simply a mathematical formula that shows you or tells you what the odds mean. So if you see minus 114, and maybe you already know that if you see a minus symbol, that means it's a favored prop. Well, we actually do the math for you. Every time on any bet in the history of the world where you see minus 114, that will always mean it has a 53.27% implied chance. So if you see minus 200, it may say something, it'll say, I believe 60% or something along the lines of that. But it will always show you the implied chance. So make sure you factor that in as well, because if this is maybe plus 500, the implied chance is going to be really, really, really low. Just a thing to factor in. The projection here is our AI model projection. So our projection is saying that Rico Dowdle will get 32.56 receiving yards. The projection is based on the stat shown. And I don't know if I highlighted this part yet, but this is where you choose the stat. So if you want to look at anytime touchdowns, receptions, receiving yards, any of that stuff, it will show you all of the options, whatever you choose here. Another thing to consider is this little slider here. You see it says U and O. The O is being toggled, so it's showing you the lines and the odds for going over. So if we clicked under, for example, it's showing you the lines of the player going under. Now, some players, on FanDuel anyway, when they first open lines, both sides of the props will be minus 114. So if you pay attention to that and you click both of these, like, hey, that's the same number on both sides, that essentially means it's a coin flip. It's 50-50. But because they want to make more money if you hit, or pay you less money if you hit, that's why they do the minus 114 each side. So another thing to factor in here is this filter. So we know this chooses the league, this chooses the source or the sportsbook or the prop app, this chooses the stat, this highlights the odds, if you want to look at the under odds or the over odds, and this here determines what you want to sort it by. The default sort, without you touching anything, is the difference, which means it sorts by the highest percentage difference, which is the next thing I want to talk about. What is the percentage difference? So what we do is it's a simple math formula where we compare what our AI is saying to what the available line is. So the projection is 161% higher than 12.5. So that's what that means. And so we want to, the higher the difference, that means the higher the edge, the higher our projection is away from the line. Whether it's a lot higher, which is why you see plus 161, or it could be a lot lower where you see a negative number. So another thing to factor in here is, this is something I stress in all the videos I put out. We are not betting that Rico is going to get 32.56 receiving yards. That is not the bet. That is the AI projection. What the AI projection is doing is telling us which side of the line to go. And it's just telling you how great the gap or the edge is. So do not see this and go and lock in a prop for Rico Dowdle to get over, let's just say, 30 receiving yards. That is not properly using this tool. This tool is simply guiding you which side of the line to go. So if his projection is 32.56, which again is a 161% difference from his line, then we simply know the AI is telling us to go over 12.5. Again, I already went over the hit rates here. H2H is head-to-head. So if the player, the last time the player versed this team, the last 365 days, it'll show you things like that. Actually, two more things before I go to the last cool feature here. Search players. Right now, this is Thursday Night Football. There's only one game available. It's Thursday Night Football. You're looking at Sunday or Saturday college football where there's an insane amount of players. Click here, type in their name, and then it'll show you only the props for that player. Another thing here is this is actually a selection screen. So if there's a Sunday night or Sunday day football where there's a lot of football games, you'll see a lot of different game times here. You just click on the one you want and it will only show you players from that game. Now, let's get to the next cool part here. When you tap on anywhere on this screen here, it'll take you to what we call the player info page, which is what this is here. And this has the same information we just saw. It still shows FanDuel, it still shows receiving yards, it still shows all the same stuff, but then it kind of shows you things in a more visual graphic way that'll help you determine if this is a good play or not. Something else I want to draw attention to is if you go up here and you change all the different stats that we have a projection for Rico, it'll change all this information. Or if you don't want to just keep clicking different things, what you can do is you can just look down here. So without me changing this to anytime touchdown, I can look down here and see that his anytime touchdown projection, he has a 32% chance of scoring a touchdown in this game. I know his rushing and receiving yards, which is what RR is 59.86. His rushing attempts, his receptions, receiving yards. So it'll show you all the things we have projections for him for here without ever having to change the filter. Now your next question might be, why is some green, why are some red? Here we have the last 10 games average. I believe we're updating this for NFL and college football to last 3, but as of the second, it's showing his last 10 games. If the projection is higher than his last average here, it's going to be green. Which is why you see rushing and receiving is at 59.86 green, because it's higher than his average of 45.5. His rushing attempts is red at 7.13 because it's less than his rushing attempts average of 7.5. So that's simply all the data here of what that shows you. Now we get to this graph. You can highlight over the graph, and this works the same on mobile as well, or desktop, or whatever version you're using, and it will tell you the exact amount of receiving yards this player had in what particular game. If he's got 0, it'll have something looking like this. And if you see this gray line here, this gray line is the receiving yards prop. So his gray line is exactly at 12.5. So you can see, sure, he covered last year in November. It looks like the bar is over the line, but not by that much because he only got 15 yards. This game, of course, he skyrocketed on January 7th. So just reference this as well. Down here, if you want to see different bar graph data, you can play around with these here. So let's say I don't really care what he did last season. Here's the first 3 games of this season. I only want to see his last 5. You click on that, boom, it only shows you last 5. You can do last 20. You can do over the course of the season. Play around with all this stuff. The last thing on this tool that we're going to talk about is right here on the bottom. I mentioned that the only benefit to switching the Sportsbook or the prop app up here is it'll update the exact line and odds from that Sportsbook. But let's say, for example, there's a Sportsbook we don't have built in. So you're using this tool, FanDuel selected. Let's say the Rico's line is at 15.5. Let's say it's 3 yards higher on whatever, let's just say Sportsbook A. His line yardage for receiving yards is 3 higher, so it's 15.5. Well, don't you want to see the data and the hit rates for a 15.5 line? You can. You go down here, and every time you click the up arrow, it'll go up by 0.5. When you click the down arrow, it goes down by 0.5. So let's pretend we have a Sportsbook that's not built into this app yet. Let's say the line is 15.5. So let's click this a few times. And now we change it to 15.5. You notice the data here, so this data stays the same because this is showing FanDuel 12.5. He had an 80% hit rate on FanDuel's 12.5 line, but if you look down here, he's got a 60% rate on this random book's 15.5 line, and this is everything else changes here as well. So this is a feature to kind of help you in case you're using a book that we're not partnered with, that's not built into the site or the app. Just play around with this. Or maybe you want to bet on an alt line. Maybe you want to do him at 10 plus receiving yards. Then you can see, okay, does his hit rate change? Is anything different there? And then go from there. So that is the ins and the outs of all of the data points of what you see on the Predictor app. And then, of course, the player info, which is what you see when you click on anybody here. If you have any questions whatsoever about anything I just went over, if there's anything questions about what I did go over, or any questions about things I may not have gone over, which I think I pretty much covered everything there, please do not hesitate to ask me in the Discord. That's why we have the Discord, so you get direct access to me to ask questions and direct access to the tens of thousands of other people that are using this app daily inside of our community Discord. So join that as well if you're not in there yet. If you're asking a question of, okay, you just mentioned the community Discord, how do I get in that? Well, you just click on profile here, and then you click the Discord button after you click on your profile page. But ladies and gentlemen, that is how to use the Predictor. What you want to focus on is you want to focus on the biggest difference between the projection and the receiving yards line. If you want to target unders, you still want this number to be as high as possible. If you want to target overs, like it's highlighted here, you want this number to be as high as possible. When it comes to strategy, so this is how to use it, but when it comes to strategy on little tricks and things we've learned, those are what's in the daily shows that I keep on dropping. This is just an overview of this is what the information means. This is how to use the Predictor. Any questions, drop it in the Discord. I hope you guys have a lot of success like all of our other members have had so far. Welcome. Thank you again for downloading this app, and we will see you guys in the Discord. Good luck, guys.